High school homework is terrible. Well, it's my first video I've created since Christmas break, and keeping in my album review series, you know what? Let's do our pork soda Primus review. So the year was 1993, 2 years after the release of Sailing the Seas of Cheese, which was Primus's second album, and following the somewhat mainstream success of the single Jerry Was a Race Car Driver, the recording studio wanted Primus to release another one of like a hit type song. So right away they went into the studio after releasing a live album in 1992 called Miscellaneous Debris. And so they went right into the recording studio and started doing stuff. And they went a whole different route in terms of themes and metaphor, no, that's the themes basically of the whole album. Whereas their first album is a lot more strange and eclectic, kind of like no, eccentric. Sorry. The second one is a lot more light and psychedelic and kind of hippie-ish. This one is dark. It's absolutely like it's turns that whole Sailing the Seas of Cheese like happy-ish concept and turns it on its head. Turns it on its head. Um, some words to describe this album are dark, twisted, messed up, not right in the head, strange. Yeah, that should give you a taste of what this whole album invokes when listening to it. So yeah, let's get right into the album, shall we? Oh, also the lyrical themes are also, it's not just the music, it's the lyrical themes. There's songs on here about suicide, serial killers, the DMV, creepy horror stories from a sauna. So yeah, let's get right into the album. It starts off just like the last two Primus albums with a intro. This one only being 20 seconds long, called Pork Chop's Little Ditty. It's a very short little fun instrumental played on a mandolin by Les Claypool himself. And it's a very catchy tune. It reminds me of like an Irish folk song. Even though it's only 20 seconds long, I wish it were longer because it's so catchy. And they've played it for the first time when they played this whole album in its entirety for the first time 2 years ago on December 31st, their annual New Year's Eve show that they play in Oakland. And that was a very cool live performance that they did of that. So definitely, this is a nice way to intro it. It goes right into the next song, which is Primus's biggest hit, My Name is Mud, which was actually number 9 on the charts in 1993. Yes, you're hearing me correctly. Primus was the number 9 song in 1993 at one point. Yeah, there were some weird songs that were popular during the early 90s, really to be precise. Like bands like the Butthole Surfers, Red Hot Chili Peppers, Primus, Tom Waits, stuff like that. Like really avant-garde stuff found its way into the charts because I think music was going through like a standstill in terms of like, well, actually no, I shouldn't say that. Grunge was very popular, but there was not a second genre that was like filling up the charts with grunge, so I'm sure that's the reason why Primus got into the chart like that, like they did. Where if you thought Jerry Was a Race Car Driver was their biggest hit, no, this was a big hit. Like even Rhett and Link from Good Mythical Morning know this song. So yeah. And they talk about it in one of their episodes, which is pretty cool. But on to my thoughts on the song. Yeah, it's great. I played it in the album cover screen. By the way, that's a really weird album cover, isn't it? Yeah. But this song, it's very avant-garde, it's very creepy, but at the same time, it's pretty pretty funny-ish, I guess. I mean, the lyrics are very catchy, very sing-alongable. The whole album is kind of displaying that trait. But no, this is funk metal at its like greatest. This is like a quintessential funk metal track. It's a great song. It's not the best on the album, but it's definitely up there, and it's probably one of my top 10, top 5 favorite Primus songs. Yeah, and it's about a serial killer in the South, like a redneck serial killer who kills a coworker with a baseball bat. It's about as non-mainstream as hits get. Um, Next on the album is Welcome to This World, which is a song I used to really hate, actually. I used to really hate this song. But it's very Frank Zappa-esque. Um, the bass line on this song is incredible. Um, Very frenzied. The lyrics are weird as usual. The singing is goofy, strange, but very cool at the same time. So yeah, I don't mind this song as much anymore because it's not as long as most of the other songs on here, so it's pretty cool. I like it. It's not as good as some of the other ones that I'll be coming to soon, but it's good. Next song on the album is Bob. Best song on the album. Can you say God tier? Probably second favorite Primus song of all time after Jerry Was a Race Car Driver. Oh my gosh, this song is so cool. It's so strange. It's about a guy that kills himself in his apartment. Yeah, it's really messed up and really creepy. The lyrics just basically repeat that quite a bit with a bit of variance in the different verses, but the bass line is so catchy, it's so amazing. It's absolutely god tier song. Sorry, Christian, I'm stealing that term. No, this song is awesome. It's quite possibly my favorite Primus song besides Jerry's a Race Car Driver. I said that already. But no, it's just a pretty awesome song, and there's a guitar solo on here that's very cool, played by Larry Lalonde. But yeah, and keep that in mind. Keep that point in mind. He also has a pretty cool solo on My Name Is Mud, which is like a um, ton more psychedelic. Oh, that's right. Forgot about this point. This whole album is psychedelic to a T. It's hugely psychedelic. It's very avant-garde and trippy. So, yeah. I'm sure a lot of people listen to this with drugs. So, anyways, Bob, very awesome song. And it's so catchy, and it's a favorite of mine. Moving on to DMV, which is a highly sarcastic take on the famous DMV that people see all the time. Basically, Les Claypool compares it to the basically compares the DMV to hell, and it's a good song. It kind of takes the Jerry Was a Race Car Driver bass line and just kind of reuses it. But I guess if you're stealing from a source that's that awesome, I guess it's still going to be a great song. Lyrics are pretty funny. He talks about doing something with a chimpanzee later on in the song, and it always like makes me go wow. No, and this song is pretty catchy too. Yeah, it's I'm gonna be saying that a lot, and this is definitely a Les Claypool showcase, along with My Name Is Mud, of course, and Bob. Moves on to the Old Diamondback Sturgeon, which is part 3 of the Fisherman's Chronicles. The first being John the Fisherman off of Frizzle Fry, the second being Fish On off of Sailing Seas of Cheese. Yeah, of course I'd have to rank them John, Fish On, and then this one. But this one's still a very cool song. It's got quite a interesting take on fishing. That's definitely a thing that Les Claypool likes if he's written 3 songs, now 4, counting the one that came out a few years ago, which I'll get to when I review that album. Now, if he writes 4 songs about it, he I guess he likes fishing though. This song is definitely very interesting. It's got some pretty weird lyrics in it, but at the same time, it's probably the lightest slash non-dark track on the album just because it's about fishing. So, yeah. Moving on to Nature Boy, which is the worst song on the first side. It's still pretty cool. The intro with the pedal is very interesting. It's very avant-garde, very cool, something that I've never really heard before. It's pretty awesome. But the it gets kind of dull from there, and it's the longest song on the first side, so it kind of overstays its welcome. But other than that, it's pretty weird lyrics. Definitely, there's references to Ren and Stimpy and all sorts of weird stuff in it. It's about somebody that likes, being naked by himself. It's just absolutely weird, like usual, and this is probably Les Claypool's weakest bass track on the whole album. The rest, he's just absolutely amazing, and this is the only one where I feel like his um, consistency goes down a little bit. We move on to the eighth track, the last song on the first side, which is Wounded Knee, which is basically Herb Alexander's drum solo for about 2 minutes. It's pretty cool, actually. It incorporates those instruments that you do this with your hands. It's got like two beans on the side, and it hits the two ends of the little pole with a little mini drum on it. It's very cool that they use that. It's very Native American inspired, as you can see from the title, which Alexander took from the book Bury Me at Wounded Knee. It's another one of the least strange songs on the album. It's instrumental, of course. It's very more avant-garde, I'd say. It's like a bass solo. It's like jazzy kind of ish. Has some awesome fills. So yeah, this song in particular kind of highlights Herb, which is like the first we've seen since Frizzle Fry. So that's the end of the first side. Very much a awesome first side. You got the first 6 songs all being pretty awesome, 3 of them being pretty god tier. So we move on to the second side, which starts off with like a basically a novelty song called Pork Soda, which is basically like an advertisement almost. Les Claypool basically mutters under his breath for about 4 minutes, and the chorus is him saying, "Grab yourself a can of pork soda, you'll be feeling just fine." Something about sitting around the house and drinking lots of swine. It's so creepy. It's weird, but at the same time, it's funny. It makes me laugh every time I listen to it, and I don't think it's supposed to be taken seriously. So goes right into the Pressman, um, which is interesting, I guess. It's not great. It's the other track where Les Claypool's bass is significantly decreased in quality, but the other parts of the album that I find great really make up for that. So this song is just kind of meh. It's the least interesting of all the songs on the album. I'd say the least weird too. I mean, the music is very strange, don't get me wrong, but the lyrics do not feel Primus enough to me. So this one's just kind of meh for me. But it goes right into another incredible song with Mr. Crinkle. Oh boy. If you thought Primus would be any weirder, they write a song about an imaginary friend. It's just a plain weird song. It's creepy. The intro. If you thought Primus getting new instruments like the Indian hand drum was weird, this is pretty creepy. Les Claypool plays the intro. The whole song actually is played on an upright bass. Not an electric one like a guitar. This is a bass that kind of looks like a violin. It's a string instrument. Oh man, it's creepy. It's used to great effect to enhance creepiness. It's the opening bass line sounds almost like a chainsaw. It's really creepy, but very fun at the same time. And I think that the lyrics are pretty awesome, sing-alongable. It's quite psychedelic. It uses the psychedelic influences the best of all the songs in the album. and I highly recommend it if anyone wants to creep themselves out. Do not watch the music video unless you want to get even more creeped out, because it's just zany, messed up stuff. Yeah, it's a wonder it got banned from MTV. I'm not going to go into the details about that. Then we go into the worst song on the album, The Air is Getting Slippery. Yeah, I'll say it's funny. I mean, every end of a verse kind of hints at he's gonna say the F word every time. It's filled with references to other bands like Pink Floyd, Rush, and Slayer, and um, 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 The Residents. Um, yeah, it's kind of funny. The bass line is cool, and the lyrics are catchy, I guess, but it's just it doesn't really work for me. It's kind of like Sergeant Baker off of Sailing the Seas of Cheese. Goes into a 8-minute instrumental, which is basically just psychedelia and less slapping a bass for 8 minutes. It begins with a sample of Paul Rubens, Pee Wee Herman, saying, "You're the guy from the hamburger train," right? Because it's called Hamburger Train as the title. Um, I'd say first time listeners would probably skip this because it is kind of repetitive. It's overlong, of course it is. It's pretty overlong, but um, it does showcase Les Claypool very well. His talents here are showcased, and I like that. So definitely would check this out if you're into slap bass. If you want to learn how to do slap bass, this is a good way to start it. Psychedelia is pretty weird. Kind of made me skip this song the first time I listened to it, but it's a deep listen, but I think ones who would enjoy it will enjoy it. Then we go into a reprise of Porkchop's Little Ditty. Goes on for about a minute. Um, Nothing I can say about it. I already said about it from the first time. Then it goes into probably one of the creepiest things I've ever heard, ever. Hail Santa. I don't really know how to describe this song. It's basically Les playing an arpeggio, a downscale arpeggio, for about 2 minutes, and Santa going ho 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 slowed down. It's one of the creepiest things I've ever heard. And there's like a sound effect of a toy pig going oink oink oink. It's so weird. I don't know what drugs they're on when they wrote that, but it's so creepy. It's kind of the first time I listened to it, I actually legitimately was kind of creeped out by it because it ends the album. Yeah, what a way to end this album. Kind of sums it up. But it makes me kind of laugh now. It's still really creepy and Captain Beefheart like, but I like it now ish. I mean, it's not really. I don't really count it as a song. It's kind of an outro, but yeah, it's a way to sum up the album basically in one song. Creepy, alienated, kind of yeah, strange, warped, twisted. And that's Pork Soda. Oh my gosh. Yeah, it's just pretty strange. It's definitely the strangest Primus album of all of them. But at the same time, it has one of my favorite all-time Primus songs, along with their biggest hit, and a few other pretty awesome songs like Mr. Crinkle and DMV and the old Diamondback Sturgeon. So yeah, this is definitely an album to remember them by. Um, Les's bass on the great songs is absolutely fantastic. His bass lines here are great as usual. Herb is more highlighted in this album, so I definitely say that he um, is a highlight of the album, is a good point about it. And the references are pretty funny too. The whole album as a whole feels a lot more progressive in nature with the track listing than the last two, so that's another plus. And my only real negatives are the air is getting slippery, the Pressman, and Nature Boy, which are not bad songs. Well, I mean, yeah, air is getting slippery is kind of bad, but the other two are not really too terrible. they're listenable. It's just, and the fact that less is not that expressive on the less than great songs. So that's my only real criticisms of this album. Yeah, it's an interesting listen to say the least, but at the same time it's fun still, but still very dark and quite disturbing actually. Pork Soda by Primus gets a 4.5 out of 5. It's an interesting listen. I give it that rating because of the, My Name is Mud and Bob songs, mostly. So, yeah, and that's that. Change of Seasons by Dream Theater Review will be coming hopefully soon. This one just came because I could do it. So, thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Yeah, basically that's what I'd like to keep reviewing. Primus and Dream Theater. I have not listened to any new albums that have come out this year. I have listened to Deep Purple's new single. It was okay-ish. I listened to, my friend is a huge fan of the, what's the word? They're kind of punk-ish, punk band AFI, and I listened to their new single, and I can't remember the title of it, but it's a lot more metal influenced, which I like, so I definitely probably give that album a listen when I have a chance to see maybe if I can review it. So, goodbye, people.